So as expected, Master Duel's next event is a synchro-only one, and is happening at almost the exact same time as the Alba Strike structure deck is being released in the TCG. While inconvenient for my upload schedule, I already had a Karakuri deck which fit the bill pretty well, so at first I thought I'd just make a profile for that. But then I thought, why be reasonable? Why make sense? Why be constrained by the boundaries of good decisions? None of that sounded particularly fun, and so I decided that if there was ever an excuse for me to upload a Flower Cardian Deck Profile, now would be that time. I mean, one of the rewards for this event is a Flower Cardian base for your mates. It's as if Konami is telling me to make this deck. If you've never heard of Flower Cardians, let me tell you, you're in for a treat. They're one of the strangest archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh!, turning Yu-Gi-Oh! From the game we all know and like into literally Hanafuda. Single-player Hanafuda, that is. Without any exaggeration, I think that they might be the deck that summons the most out of every single archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't believe me? Well, wait until you get to the combo section of the video. That might change your mind. Also, I wasn't clickbaiting in the thumbnail. I actually counted how many draws I did in a single turn once. This is the result of almost nothing in the archetype being hard once per turn, and you'll probably be activating some of your cards at least 10 times in one turn. So how is this remotely balanced? Well, first of all, it basically locks you out from summoning any other monsters if you use any of their effects. It also heavily discourages you from running any cards that aren't actually part of their archetype, because if you draw them at the wrong time, they're then sent to the graveyard. Also, they're not the best at dealing with hand traps. But hey, everything needs a downside. Want to try your hand at one of the most ridiculous decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And don't mind taking a few L's if your gambles don't pay off? Well, let's look at the deck then. So here's the deck, with the extra deck cut down to be as budget as possible. It's honestly not too expensive of a deck to build, only requiring 7 super rares and 3 ultra rares to work properly. If you did have extra copies of the extra deck monsters, you might as well run those as well, but I wanted to make this as accessible as possible for those that want to try this during the festival. Now, since this isn't exactly a very popular deck, I can claim with a fair amount of confidence that I know what ratios are best in this deck. Fun fact, this was actually the very first deck I built in paper, which might explain my weird taste in decks. I'll be explaining all of my choices anyway, so if you disagree with anything, you'll at least know my reasoning. First off is 3 of your normal summon, Flower Cardian Pine. Flower Cardians often require you to control a Flower Cardian of a certain level or lower to summon themselves. So this being a level 1 makes them all live at once. So basically you keep it around on your field for as long as you can. Like most of the cards in this deck, when it's summoned it draws a card, and if it's not a Flower Cardian monster, you need to send that card straight to the graveyard. For the monsters it's fine since you keep them, but also most of the Flower Cardian spells have some kind of graveyard effect when milled by a Flower Cardian monster, so either way you do usually get something out of this. Next we run 3 of both Cherry Blossoms. You'll be trying to combo Cherry Blossom with Curtain into Cherry Blossom, into a third monster like Willow, if you have Flower Stacking, since those 3 combo really well into each other. Cherry Blossom is also another emergency normal summon in case you don't have Pine. It's also a great way to search a tuner in case you didn't have access to one. The tuner in question will probably be Peony, who can tribute any other Flower Cardian to summon itself. By the way, all the tuners have an effect where they treat everything else as level 2s, which is how you're actually able to summon stuff like Light Flare with 5 monsters. This also has the kind of funny effect where you can ruin your opponent's draw for turn by stacking something bad on top of the deck, or if all 3 cards that you look at are good, you can just put them on the bottom of the deck instead. This will activate every time you succeed at its draw effect though, so get ready for a bit of redundancy. Next we have 1 of each Boar and Deer, which do kind of go together. The thing is, you won't win the coin flip every time, and there's no side deck in Master Duel, so you do want at least 1 of both of these cards. When they succeed at their draw, they both allow you to do some non-targeting destruction, Boar of a monster and Deer of back row. Since you can recycle everything in this deck very easily, you'll be able to pick apart your opponent's entire board if you play well. Since they both need a tribute, they're a very good target for recardination, which we'll get to soon. Next there's 3 Zebra Grass, which is not only easy to summon, but also allows you to mulligan every single monster in your hand, and then draw that many cards. This is the key to actually getting spells into your hand, since it won't discard them when drawn like this, and it's very likely that you'll be shuffling away and then drawing at least 5 cards with this effect. Again, it's not a hard once per turn, so you'll end up filtering out every single non-monster in your deck thanks to this, letting you resolve everything else pretty much every time. Then we come to the absolute best card in the deck, Flower Cardian Willow. It has a super easy summoning condition, and then has the incredible effect of shuffling back a Flower Cardian to draw a card with no strings attached. This is your other main way of getting spells into your hand, and you'll be drawing so many cards thanks to this monster that it's just silly. It also means you won't be decking out nearly as fast as you would otherwise, since it recycles the monsters for you. Your main goal is to make a Moonflower viewing with 2 of these and a tuner, and then to keep desynchroing them and then resynchroing them back together to draw most of your deck. You'll see that soon enough in the replay. To go with Willow, we have 2 Willow with Calligrapher, which is an easy tuner to make as long as you have Willow on board. It's not too notable in any other way besides its 2000 attack, but it's a reliable tuner to summon and draws a card, so we still run it. Finally, run 3 Paulownia. It's the easiest one to summon, so it's basically just a free material for your synchros, as well as something you don't mind losing by banishing it or shuffling it back. Here's a secret Flower Cardian technique for you. If you can't go full combo, at least try to summon this card in attack mode. It has an effect when targeted for an attack, it just straight up ends the battle phase and draws you a card. I guarantee that your opponent will never read every single Flower Cardian card, especially after your turn takes so long, so they'll run into this and lose their battle phase to it. It happens surprisingly often and is hilarious every time. Now we're on to spells. Run a Rota since it searches Pine or the Cherry Blossoms, helping you get your turn started. Then run 2 Desynchros. It's one of the strongest cards to draw, but you don't really want to start with it, hence running 2. You basically make synchros out of monsters that draw cards like Moonflower Viewing and Willow, and then desynchro them to get all of their draw effects again. A typical combo is to get 1 Moonflower Viewing and 2 Willows on board, which already gets you 3 draws. Then you synchro them into another Moonflower, which is your 4th draw. After that, desynchro them for 3 more draws, bringing you up to 7 draws, before synchro summoning them again for another Moonflower, giving you 8 draws total. The best thing is that all of those draws guarantee that you'll keep the card, letting you fill up on spell cards. Next is a maybe controversial decision, but I only run 1 Flower Stacking. Even though it summons 4 from the deck, it's not actually that amazing. The thing is, if you start with this, you need to immediately get access to a tuner, otherwise you've just bricked up your entire field with negated monsters. And if you draw it too late, you won't be able to use it, since it has to summon exactly 4 monsters, not up to 4. It's also a hard once per turn, so multiple copies are useless. Still, when you do pull it off at the right time, it's an amazing card. You just don't want more than 1 during your turn. Next is 3 Flower Stacking, which just kind of cheats by letting you decide the next 3 cards on top of your deck. This guarantees that your effects will resolve properly, and by doing both Cherry Blossoms into a 3rd card, you can search anything that you want. You'll see some examples of how to use this card in the combo I'll be showing. It's also got some recovery for next turn, since it lets you add a Flower Cardian back from your graveyard to your hand. This is pretty nice because you won't get a draw for your draw phase using this deck. Next is your only main deck super rare, Super Koi Koi. It's a gamble card that can allow you to summon up to 3 Flower Cardians that you excavate, which, coincidentally, is exactly as many as you can stack with Flower Stacking. Even as a Hail Mary if you're bricking otherwise, it's pretty good, and because it turns the negated monsters into level 2s, it will make most of your special summons live. Its graveyard effect is also good for forcing out a tuner if your field is otherwise clogged up. Then we have another incredibly good card, Reincarnation. For once, I like the TCG's name better than just card reincarnation. They were clearly having as much fun with this archetype as I am. Basically, it gets any Flower Cardian back from the graveyard to your hand, and then summons a Flower Cardian ignoring their summoning conditions. Unlike a normal Monster Reborn, it doesn't just special summon one straight back from the graveyard, so the one you add back to your hand and the one you summon can be different. This is great for adding back a free summon like Willow or Paulownia, while cheating out one that usually requires a tribute like Peony or one of your destruction monsters. It also has the best effect when milled, letting you excavate 5. You then keep any spell, even a non-Flower Cardian spell, and then stack the remaining cards however you want, guaranteeing great draws for your next effects. As long as that wasn't your last play available, you'll be set for a while thanks to this. Finally, we come to one of the most ridiculous cards ever printed, Super All-In. It does deserve that exclamation point. Basically, it's a desynchro on steroids. By returning a synchro monster to your extra deck, you can summon any 4 Flower Cardians from your graveyard, and then draw a card and summon it if it's another Flower Cardian. But that downside of having everything destroyed while halving your life points looks kinda scary, doesn't it? Well, that's just there to pretend that this card has a downside, but here's a little secret. If you activate this with a light shower on the field, there isn't actually any penalty for missing with the draw. This is because of how Super All-In is worded. It needs to actually destroy something in order to halve your life points, but Light Shower prevents the destruction of your Flower Cardian monsters, so you won't actually lose anything at all. With this, you'll be summoning 4 monsters that immediately draw a card, including being able to summon Moonflower Viewings from your graveyard, and then potentially drawing even more with the last part of the effect, and then you get whatever effect that card did on summon. It's completely ridiculous if you do pull this off properly. Now we're onto the extra deck. This is the least you can get away with, but like I said, just run as many copies of each of them as you can. In one turn you'll probably be going through all of your Moonflowers, and hopefully end on 1 Light Flare, 2 Light Showers and 1 Boardifly. So these ratios reflect that. Boardifly is one of the last things you'll be summoning during your turn, since it only needs 3 monsters and that'll be all of the space you have left. While inflicting piercing damage to your opponent, you can also banish a Flower Cardian to give your opponent a lingering effect that stops them from activating or special summoning from the graveyard. It's basically an even stronger Abyss Dweller, which can really mess some decks up by itself. Then we have Moonflower Viewing, a synchro tuner that guarantees a drawn card every time you get it on the field. It does also make everything level 2, allowing you to continue your combos after making it. And believe me, you'll be making this card a ton, so 3 copies are necessary. It will cost you your draw phase next turn, but that doesn't really matter since you'll be skipping it anyway. Finally, we come to the boss monsters, Light Shower and Light Flare. Light Shower gives destruction and targeting immunity to all of your Flower Cardians, making the 5000 attack Light Flare very hard to out. It also inflicts 1500 burn to your opponent if they so much as draw a card in their draw phase, helping you easily ATK next turn if you have 2 of these. It will force you to either negate itself or skip your next draw phase, but you'll be skipping that draw phase anyway, so you'll want to keep the effects every time. Finally, Light Flare is a 5000 attack spell or trap negate on legs that also negates the effect of everything you attack. It has a floating effect too, which could be a good reason to craft the 3rd Light Shower, but it's not absolutely necessary. Remember that, thanks to Boardifly, this will also have piercing damage, so it's pretty easy to finish your opponent off if you make it to turn 3. So that's the deck. I'll now be showing you a replay that showcases a successful Flower Cardian turn. To be perfectly honest, your main win condition is your opponent surrendering because your turns take so long. So this was the best replay I could get where they didn't just give up halfway through. It showcases the ins and outs of comboing with this deck pretty well though, so it should work well for this video. It does end on a full board too, so you'll get to see what you should be aiming for. We start off this turn with a flower stacking, putting Peony, Boar and Deer on top. This is to get Boar and Deer out of the way early, since we're going first and don't need to destroy anything. Super Koi Koi will then summon them all, and because their effects aren't optional, they all trigger even though they're negated. We can then make our first Moonflower for a draw. That draws a Peony, summons it, and then that draws a Willow. Willow draws another Willow, which is just perfect. With 2 Willows and a Moonflower, we can properly get our engine going. We draw Super All-In, but it's too early to use that. Instead, we stack both cherries and another Willow, and then start going through them all with Cherry Blossom. That does also get the Deer that we shuffled back earlier. We can start using Willow again now, and when we draw a desynchro, we know that we can really start going all in. With a Moonflower, Willow, and 2 other monsters, we make a Light Shower which can desynchro immediately to draw 3 cards, 2 of which are guaranteed draws. We have some Polonias on hand which are easy summons, but we also need to free up some space by making a Light Shower which we will be keeping this time. Then, using Recardination, you can add to your hand and then summon a Dia, giving you enough materials for a Moonflower viewing and giving you a draw. This is where it gets fun. Thanks to Light Shower, you can safely use Super All-In, putting back Moonflower to revive a different Moonflower, as well as 3 Willows. It also draws a Zebra Grass, which summons itself, and then mulligans every single monster in your hand away to draw that many cards. You can then just casually draw 4 cards with your Willows and Moonflower. Notice that we drew a desynchro. That's going to be big. Once you're done drawing, make a Light Flare with all 5 monsters, and now, as you've probably guessed, you desynchro it to get all of those monsters right back to your field again. Zebragrass will once again mulligan every single monster out of your hand, which finds you a few more spells to keep, and then of course you start drawing with all 4 of your monsters once again. You need some room to summon now, so make a Light Flare once again which we'll be keeping. Then it's a great time to use Flower Gathering, which we use to get a Pine, a Blossom, a Zebragrass and a Polonia. Somehow we don't actually have a tuner that we can summon in our hand, so we can just use Flower Stacking to put a Peony on top, or tribute something to draw a Peony, and then Peony will draw again, before allowing a synchro summon of a Light Shower. Polonia can now just summon itself, and then we can use Recardination to add back a Willow, before cheating out a Willow with Calligrapher. With the other Polonia we drew, we make a Bodyfly, banishing a monster to lock your opponent out of their graveyard. Finally just Willow into Willow with Calligrapher, mostly just to flex, but also because it has 2000 attack, I guess. As soon as your opponent tries to draw for turn, it will be burnt for 3000 damage. After that, they attempt to use Nixie's change tactics, but I just negate it. Then they use a Vict or just lost their will to play anymore, because they do surrender. Flower Cardians are very good at causing that. So that's the deck. As ridiculous of a deck it is, it's very fun to play for a bit, so do give it a try. If you do, tell me how it went, and while you're down there in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe. Special thanks to my tier 2 patrons, Jason Murrah and Violet Rain. Thanks for watching!